Yes, we just saw Teofimo Lopez Jr. turn back time. We saw a little bit of vintage Teofimo Lopez, but he took care of Josh Taylor. The scorecards, though, we had two 115, 113 cards, and then a 117, 111 card. Brian, do you agree with these cards? Because I only had Taylor winning two
Hell no.
rounds.
I did not. I didn't agree with the cards at all, but at least the right guy won, which in boxing is not always the case. But Teofimo Lopez looked like the real Teofimo Lopez that we saw beat Vasily Lomachenko. I think this was a better performance than even that because, Shantelle, you had him winning 10 out of the 12 rounds. I had him winning the
Yeah.
exact same 118, 110. Saw some people had the same scorecard. Saw some people 117, 111. I think Max Kellerman had it 117, 111. Mark Kriegel might have had it the same, but I missed it. And the two 115, 113s, whatever, but don't want to get bogged down in that necessarily. Teofimo Lopez is a story here. And I felt like going into this, I'll say it right off the top, wasn't sure because the press conference, it was just weird shit. And it's like, it can go either way. Like either someone's so far gone or they're just so locked in that it's almost like uncanny, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he was awesome. I thought he dominated, especially after round 3, really kicked it into gear. He started dancing in front of Josh Taylor, and that's when you kind of knew he was in a special rhythm. Teofimo Lopez has not been like that in a while, and it was very fun to see just him just do all that to Josh Taylor, who, look, this was a guy who was undisputed at 140, and Teofimo Lopez is dancing in front of his face and beat him like no one's beaten him before. Not even Jack Catterall, who a lot of people thought beat Josh Taylor. It wasn't like this. It was not like this.
Yeah, I thought he absolutely dominated. And this was really interesting coming into this fight because you're right. There were a lot of questions about Teofimo Lopez. I just want to say I was right about my bet, though. I said to take him straight up on the money line. I thought there was a chance he could get the knockout. And there were some times in that fight where I was like, oh, Teo's got him shook, right? I thought he was going to finish him off. But at the same time, I didn't bet that way because, I mean, no one's actually stopped Josh Taylor before. And it looks, someone wrote, Jesus, I'm guessing.
It's got to be Jesus. We can
Yeah,
call you Jesus if you want, but it's probably Jesus. Jesus
yeah,
says
Jesus.
Taylor's awkward athletics gave Taylor problems. Taylor, and he also adds, Taylor was sloppy in a funky way. I think it's like
I thought he looked sharp. I
that's
thought
a
Teofimo Lopez looked very, very sharp.
yeah. Like he was dancing, he was having a good time in there. He was countering, he was landing these check left hooks when Taylor would try to lunge in and close the gap. He couldn't bully him. We talked about this leading up to the fight. Taylor likes to bully guys with his size. He's not somebody who's always going to fight at a distance, right? He likes to get inside and actually, break you down from the inside. And look, that's worked out in a lot of different times. He tried it with Jack Catterall, didn't work. He had some success with it against Regis Prograis and ultimately did win that fight, even though, we both felt like
Questionable,
probably it
questionable.
was a draw. But didn't work against Teofimo Lopez. Teofimo Lopez, one of those guys, probably stronger as he moves up in weight, right? And you called it. You nailed this bet. I thought that if Teofimo Lopez won, it was going to be a stoppage, and we didn't quite get that. But there were a couple
Close.
times,
Yeah.
where I was like, "Oh, is Josh Taylor ready to go?" And to Josh Taylor's credit, I want to get your thoughts on this. The layoff, he did not blame it on the layoff at all. He was just kind of like, "Yo, uh, like, don't blame it on the layoff. That wasn't the issue. Just a better man won," that kind of thing. And 16 months away from the ring, I mean, there's going to be some rust, but it didn't feel like that was a factor tonight because Teo was so dominant.
I mean, I think there was some rust, but I think Teo was just more focused than ever. This is arguably his best performance. And when you take a look at his resume now, you got Josh Taylor on there, you got Lomachenko on there, you got Nakatani, Comey, Sandor Martin. You cannot hate on this man anymore. Everything that we were saying, all these questions, I think he shut them down because now you've beaten a guy that was undisputed. Josh Taylor had to give up 3 out of his 4 belts because he was waiting for that Jack Catterall rematch. It never happened. He decided to fight Teofimo Lopez. And, I know what's going to happen. A lot of the Josh Taylor fans are going to be like, well, he was injured in that Jack Catterall fight and he wasn't himself. Like, who cares? At the end of the day, Jack Catterall got robbed, in my opinion.
And a
And
lot of
so
people's opinion.
yeah, and then he takes a long layoff, comes into this fight, and is the favorite. And he should have been the favorite, for obvious reasons. But this type of performance shows you, I mean, it kind of shows you how elite Teofimo Lopez is once he's focused. because that's all it really is. I mean, this guy's also going through a divorce, which is kind of what I read outside of the ring. And I think at this point, he was just like, you know what? I'm not going to focus on everything else. I'm just going to focus on boxing. This was like a performance we saw that he had against Lomachenko. Similar, because we saw skill.
Better.
Even when he fought Pedro Campa, and I was at that fight, I was like, Teo's getting hit a lot. Like, he's got to work on his defense. His footwork in tonight's fight was epic. Jesus also said that style won't work versus Matias and Ramirez. Matias is the boogeyman. We'll see where he's going to sign.
I think he might be okay against Ramirez. I don't know about Matias though. I don't know.
That's a whole different other ball game. Also,
we'll get to the future in a second, because there was some smoke about that. I was at the weigh-in. We posted this on our channel. You can go check that out, TheMandatory, on YouTube. And Teofimo didn't say what was next, because he said that he's going to be in a custody battle, for his son. And as you mentioned, things outside of the ring, whatever. But Teofimo Lopez Sr. and Bill Haney got into it at the weigh-in. And they basically were like, hey, look, and it's boxing. So like, this is probably bullshit. We'll see if it actually happens. But Teofimo Lopez versus Devin Haney at 140. I mean, if Devin Haney's not going to fight Shakur Stevenson, I'm okay with Devin Haney versus Teofimo Lopez. I don't know who's winning that fight, but I feel like a lot of people will lean Teofimo after this.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people at one point thought we were going to get Teofimo and Devin Haney because they've been going at it in social media for a few years now. However, let's just get into it, Bryan, because now there's talk about who he's going to fight at 140. And a guy that we had on the show, Arnold Barbosa Jr., tweeted, "Congratulations, Teofimo Lopez. Let's run it anytime, any day." Now, that's a fight that can happen if Teo's still going to be under the Top Rank banner. And I think that's really interesting. Regis Prograis was kind of giving him props during the fight as well. Possible fight with maybe Regis if they can make it happen. But Twisted Tapioca is saying Haney and Lopez have been going at it for sure.
That's not his real name. I know who that is.
Who is it?
Thank you for being here. Nah, I won't out him. That's my boy.
Okay.
But yeah,
I like the name though. It's witty, right?
That's my guy. But look, I don't know what's gonna happen next. I would like to see Teofimo Lopez versus Devin Haney. I would like to see Teofimo Lopez versus as Jesus mentioned, Jose Ramirez, Subriel Matias, like any of the top guys. Like 140 is fun. 140 is a great weight class right now. Regis Prograis is the WBC champion. You have Teofimo Lopez now has WBO. Subriel Matias, where is he going to fight next? He has the IBF, and Rolly Romero has a WBA, which, he shouldn't have, whatever. And we'll see what happens with that. Maybe he fights Ryan Garcia, because that's something that's been bandied about. I personally think Ryan Garcia will win that fight.
Yes.
But look, I think that there is a lot to be done here. You have Top Rank has a title. Matchroom has a title. PBC has a title with Rolly Romero, and Subriel Matias. We don't really know where he's going to go. He's been a PBC fighter, but there's been talk about him signing with Matchroom potentially. And I always think that the Puerto Rican fighters should give Top Rank a look, as you saw with Xander Zayas, who we may talk about a little bit before this ends. Any other big takeaways from this? Just Teofimo's performance, to me, is the best that he's looked since Lomachenko. And I did not expect that coming into this fight.
No, I think my biggest takeaway is, and this is just what, everyone goes back to your last performance, right? So my whole thing is, after everyone was kind of hating on Teo, right? Saying that, listen, this guy's going to get beat by Josh Taylor. He's no good. He proved everyone wrong. That's what I like about this performance, because at one point we were all high on Teofimo Lopez, right? 135 goes into that fight with George Kambosos Jr. We all know what happened. Just went in there to knock him out.
Massive favorite for that fight, by the way.
And now we're looking at him, and let's be serious now. He's got a belt. All right. This guy is a 2-division champion.
He beat a former undisputed champion. He beat the guy who won the World Boxing Super Series at this weight class. He beat a guy who was pound for pound, Ring Magazine pound for pound. I think at one point, I don't know if he was before this fight, but he's not going to be after this. And
I don't care if Rolly has a belt. He's not on the top 5 for this top 5
well,
list.
No. I was talking about Josh Taylor.
I'm just saying, if we're gonna make the list, I would have to put Teofimo Lopez at number 2 now.
We are gonna rank our top guys from 140. Regis Prograis has a fight this coming week. Who was all over TV because they were putting his tweets on air, which I found that very interesting that ESPN was doing that. Yeah, fuck you. Fuck you, Tony. For our audio listeners, he's saying that I've been going at it with my hairline. My hairline is okay, but like it was very sharp about 5-7 years ago.
I didn't have to do that to you either, but I saw it. That was hilarious, Tony. Thanks for that one. But you were talking about how your hairline was looking sharp. TEOFIMO Lopez looking sharp as well.
Really?
And I mean, like we gotta roll with it. Okay? These are good segues. All right. What I want to ask you though is, does this make TEOFIMO Lopez one of the biggest stars in boxing again? This win.
The way he did it, I mean, he's in the top 10 in terms of just star power. Like, he still has the ESPN machine, top ranked machine for now. We'll see how long that lasts. And people chime into the conversation. We've got some people watching here. Do comment. We'll get to some more comments as we have throughout the show. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you think should come next. It's always a topic of discussion in boxing. But yeah, in terms of stardom, like, I wish this was in the big house. I don't like that this was in the theater. And I don't think that's really a knock on Teofimo Lopez, Josh Taylor, because I think it would have done well in the big house. But it's just weird that this, to me, was a theater fight. I think this should have been something in the big house. But I still think he is a big star, and one of the biggest stars that Top Rank has for sure. Tony Yayo, our guy, who's always here in our lives, comments, Josh Taylor looks so uncoordinated in there, which is funny. I was surprised that he didn't blame ring rust, but he took his loss like an adult. And I think we can get to the Josh Taylor portion of this, right? Like, where does he kind of go from here? The Jack Catterall rematch is not coming, and I just don't think Jesus.
Jesus has a good comment here, and I want to get into this comment. Jesus says, "Come on, guys, we can." He says we can overhype Teo on this win. Boxers need to be consistent. Here's the thing, though.
Teo on this win.
I don't think we're overhyping Teo on this win. You know why? Because listen, look at the guys he has on his resume. And the thing about it is, like, the Nakatani performance, we're like, whatever, right? Then he goes out, he knocks out Richard Comey in the second round.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, it's a little bit of a better performance. And then he goes and beats Lomachenko. Right, he's had some questionable fights, the George Kambosos Jr. one, and Sandor Martin, where we were like, did he lose?
I had him win by a point, but I mean,
there's questions about it. But other than that, like, are we overhyping him? I don't.
No, I think. Well, I would say to Jesus this: like, remember, Josh Taylor was undisputed and the lineal champion. Like, now Teofimo Lopez is the guy who beat the guy, which he's done it in 2 weight classes now, right? Like, so I do think Jesus is onto something where the consistency, like, all right, I would like to see if Teofimo Lopez, whether it's a rematch, whether it's Devin Haney, like, let's see him have another one of these performances, right? But his resume is to be respected at this point, though. Like, George Kambosos, like, I think we can all, I don't think anyone historically, if we're ranking all these fighters, I don't think anyone's putting George Kambosos ahead of Teofimo Lopez. I think people are saying Teofimo Lopez just didn't fight the fight he should have fought. And sometimes that happens. Yeah. But ultimately, I think let's get him in the ring with somebody else who's one of the top guys at 140, a Devin Haney, for example, if the dads are actually going to come together and make that fight, right? And if he wins that, you know what I mean?
That's just lame, though, at the same time, because remember Bill Haney and Devin Haney were like, yo, we're not going to move up to 140 pounds. We're going to stay right here at 135. It's like, make the fight with Shakur happen.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what are we doing here? Why are we going up to 140?
But this is why everybody in boxing is full of shit. Like, everybody puts out content about, like, this fight may happen. It's like, nobody knows shit until the contracts are signed and there's tickets for sale. And, like, it's just the sport is a fucking mess. But tonight,
give Arnold a shot. Give Arnold Barbosa Jr. a shot. He's been waiting. There's back and forth with him and Teofimo Lopez. Well, technically they're dads. Teofimo Sr.
He's now the #1 contender according to the WBO. So he should be next in line for this. I don't know if that's going to happen, but because boxing is boxing. But ultimately, like, look, Teofimo Lopez, whatever he does next, don't put that shit at the MSG Theater. He deserves to be in the big house if you're gonna do it at Madison Square Garden. Twisted Tapioca, I guess I'll call him that again. It's a
great
tough
name.
deal,
Great
right?
name.
You got to balance so much with taking a fight, win or lose. Consistency matters, but hype is just important. People tune in. That's what matters. Yeah, I mean, look, Teofimo Lopez is a guy that people tune into, right? Like, I feel like the rating for this, one, Shantelle, I like that this was not on pay-per-view.
Loved
This
it.
is just on ESPN, right? Now, big part of that is because Amanda Nunes is on pay-per-view, which might actually be going on right now. And I think, and Jesus says it here, Teo has many options, which is kind of what we're outlining. And that's the thing, right? Like, boxers, a lot of guys have all these exciting options. And another comment that Jesus mentions, you know what? This is actually an interesting discussion because where I think this is trending, Chantel, is he's going to fight probably Heisman night because he's
Yeah.
kind of the guy that made that a thing. December, like he did it last year with Sandor Martin, and his coming out party in terms of like launching himself into real like that level of stardom was the Richard Coleman knockout. That was on Heisman night.
Yeah.
I think that the logical thing is to make him and whomever he's going to fight. Maybe it's Devin Haney. Maybe it's Arnold Barbosa. Maybe it's Jose Ramirez, who was mentioned earlier in the chat.
Yeah.
One of these guys, right? All of which I'd be totally fine with. Even if it's a rematch with Josh Taylor, there was some talk about a rematch clause or whatever, but Josh Taylor seemed to say like, hey, it's up to the champion, so whatever. I think whatever the fight is, though, Heisman night, that would be ideal.
Okay, I do have a question for you though, because obviously, like
Yes.
Heisman Night's in New York, right? They give out the award,
Hell
and then
yeah.
okay, whatever. Anyways, you just said that you didn't want it to be at the MSG Theater. So what if it's Heisman Night and they're like, Antonio, we're gonna get to your comment in just a moment.
Yeah.
However, I was gonna say if it's at the Hulu Theater, the MSG Theater, wouldn't it kind of make more sense if he is fighting a guy like Jose Ramirez to do it out in Fresno? Because Jose is going to sell out that thing. It's also going to be December, so the weather is going to be a lot better there on the West Coast. Like, that's also a venue that I think they could do because it's better than the MSG Theater, right?
This is where the East Coast West Coast thing on the show is going to play out. Heisman night would probably mean no pay-per-view, but I mean you can kind of do what you want if you're ESPN, honestly. Like if you wanted to make a pay-per-view, you can, right? Look, if you're the champion, if you're Teofimo Lopez, I ain't going out in Fresno and fighting Jose Ramirez.
I mean, no, but I'm saying it sells tickets, right?
I
Like,
get
it's
what you're
like,
saying, right? Like you can get a good venue out there, like, but I just
even the StubHub Center.
oh,
You know what I mean?
I love fights there. But if I'm Teofimo Lopez, I'm keeping it home. You got to take
You
this shit
have to.
from me in my backyard, baby. You know what I'm saying? Like you got.
I know, but think about it. Like, if you could sell more tickets in Fresno than at the MSG Theater, you want to get paid. What's going to make more paper? What's going to make more sense, right?
Teofimo Lopez is gonna make paper regardless. I don't think he gives a shit.
I guess so, but I think it also depends on how many like
and
butts are in
plus
the seats.
it's MSG. You know what I mean? Like they'll just look at again.
Okay, great.
Maybe,
So you said that. So it is MSG. Okay, great. I was confused because you were like, "Oh, I don't like the theater." So now you're rocking with the theater.
over Fresno.
Yeah.
I don't like the theater in terms of like.
What?
Let
You
me
gotta
not say
pick
this
one.
because I'm trying to cover an event at the theater in a couple weeks. I was just there
Oh, yeah, that's
yesterday.
true,
Okay,
that's
so
true.
let's just like the theater's fine. Just
I just think I love the venue of Jose Ramirez fighting in Fresno. Like I just love it. Like I'm all
Well, I
about it.
still think, you know what though, I would prefer like if we're making a serious, I think Teofimo Lopez should fight Devin Haney next if Devin Haney is going to be at 140, and I still think Jose Ramirez should fight Arnold Barbosa to just make that an eliminator.
Yes.
Have the two fight each other.
Have that one in Fresno.
Let the winner fight whoever's going to be the champion. Like it's just those two guys should fight an eliminator, and Teofimo Lopez should fight either Devin Haney or some other top contender or whatever. We have another comment here. Try to pronounce this one. Let's see. I am PK13. I think this person has commented on our YouTube. So shout out to this person. Man or woman, I don't know what you are, who you are, but salute to you. Let us know in the comments. The reason the fight was not in a big arena is because the arena was contracted out to possible Rangers. The Rangers were not making the Stanley Cup, but thank you for that contribution. I can say that as a New Yorker before the Rangers were eliminated from the playoffs. That's bullshit. The Rangers were not making the Stanley Cup this year. I know they got Patrick Kane, Yeah, I know a little bit of hockey, Shantelle. I know they got
More than
Patrick
me right
Kane,
now.
but
I should know more because Jesus just asked Chantel, "Where are you from?" Oh wait, no, Jesus. That's the wrong one. But
yeah, there you go.
Vancouver. I'm from Vancouver, Canada. So
Not for long.
hey, let's keep that on the low. But and IMPK is a male. So we know now. Going back to Jesus's comment, Ramirez and Barbosa in September or November, yes, eliminator. I would hope that we would get that because I think whoever wins that fight then can possibly fight Teofimo Lopez.
That's what I want. That's what should, these two guys should fight each other. It just makes a ton of sense. We asked Arnold Barbosa when he was on the show. He said he'd be down to fight Jose Ramirez. He'd be down to, he practically wants to fight damn near anybody at this point. Anything that gets him close to a title shot or actual title shot. The logical fight in Top Rank in 140 in that stable is Jose Ramirez, Arnold Barbosa, and the winner gets a future fight with Teofimo Lopez or whoever's the champion by that point, especially because Jose Ramirez beat Richard Comey and Arnold Barbosa beat Jose Pedraza after Pedraza and Comey drew with each other. Like, it's kind of like almost tournament style. It just makes a lot of sense. Do we have anything else about this fight in particular? Tony Ayo mentioned Adrian Broner. I was watching that fight last night. Oh boy, I can't believe I was tweeting about that shit. Adrian Broner fighting in Miami, Florida, the same night as the NBA Finals were in Miami, Florida, fighting a white dude named Bill Hutchinson, who he did not knock out, and Don King, and yeah, we're just not going to talk about it. But anything else in regards to this fight? I do want to touch on Xander Zayas a little bit because you already know, like we have to. But it's Puerto Rican Day Parade weekend. But yeah.
This is your boy right here, Twisted Tapioca. I think he had some Twisted Tapioca before he had on here, but Vancouver is okay. Scarborough, demon time. Scarborough sucks. It's like it's one of the ugliest places I've been in Canada. I remember I saw the sign. I was working at TSN I still work for TSN, but I remember they flew me out there and there was a sign that said "Welcome to Scarborough," and I saw it and it was so ugly I almost cried because I'm from Vancouver. It's way nicer out here. Just gotta let you know, it's an ugly place. But anyways. It's not the point. I was going to say before we get into, I know you want to talk about Xander Zayas, but the final thing that I want to ask you before we get into Xander Zayas, because I know you want to get in your bag about that.
Which will be quick because we only got 8 more minutes or so.
Okay, so now if you're taking a look at the 140-pound division, with Teofimo Lopez winning this, I know, Twisted Tapioca. I'm quite funny. Anyways, okay, no, but okay, back to my question. Okay, so with Teofimo Lopez winning this fight, how does that shift the 140-pound division, and where do you place Josh Taylor in all of this?
I think about this. Regis Prograis is number 1 to me. Teofimo Lopez is right there. We'll see how Regis Prograis handles Danielito Zorrilla next week. But I think that Regis gets that number 1 spot at 140 for me right now. Even though Josh Taylor beat him,
debatable,
right? Teofimo Lopez, I feel comfortable saying them two, along with Subriel Matias, are the top 3 in this weight class. Rolly Romero has the title. He's clearly not the 4th best guy. I would obviously put Josh Taylor ahead of Rolly Romero. But then you have to think about where's Arnold Barbosa, where's Jose Ramirez, whatever the case may be. I think Josh Taylor's still a top 5 guy in this weight class.
He would have to be.
You have to keep him up there, right? And you maybe it's actually. I don't want to give away my list because I want to think about this a little bit more.
Yeah, and we're gonna put out this list as well. We're gonna put out this list as well, or coming out this week. So definitely stay tuned for that.
So as a treat to the people who are here for the live. I will probably give you what will end up being my list, but yeah. Well, no, Zorrilla won another fight after the loss to Barbosa, Jesus, but it was like against a journeyman, I believe. But the point remains, we thought this should have been Arnold Barbosa who got that fight, but at last, boxing business, you know. Regis Prograis. We'll say Teofimo Lopez, Subriel Matias in whatever order. Those should be the top 3 in whatever order, right? Regis is 1, the other 2, whatever. Subriel could absolutely beat anybody in this weight class, though. He's that good. And then you have, I feel like it has to be Josh Taylor, Arnold Barbosa, or Josh Taylor, Jose Ramirez, right? I think Josh Taylor gets a spot. He beat Jose Ramirez, and he has to be ahead of Jose Ramirez. And Arnold Barboza hasn't fought any of these guys yet, but he's done enough to get in this conversation. He's a top contender or whatever. So this is, again, why I want Jose Ramirez and Arnold Barboza to fight each other, because they're probably tied for that fifth spot, right? Rolly Romero's not in this top 5. Ryan Garcia, ... Ryan Garcia, we'll see where he is post Gervonta Davis. He was an interim champion at lightweight. We still have to see him at 140, but he can get himself into this conversation as well. And there's some other guys that we can get into at a later date. Maybe Richardson Hitchens could sneak his way into this conversation in about a year or two. He's got a fight with Montana Love coming up, and he's one of the best prospects in this weight class.
Yeah, and Jesus is coming with all the heat. Yes, I am from the West Coast. That's why the show has so much flavor. All right, so we're
wow.
No, I'm just messing with you. Okay, so I want to ask you about Xander Zayas, because obviously big weekend for you. Xander Zayas puts on a great performance. He doesn't get the stoppage, but what were your thoughts on what you saw from him?
People are gonna get on him for not getting the stoppage, but it was a shutout performance. Just like his last fight where people are going to get on him, it was a shutout performance. If he was 25, 26, 27, I'd probably be like, it was good, but you kind of want to see, he's 20 years old. Okay. He just ended his teens. He's 20 years old. I think he'll be 21 this year. Top rank signing when he was 16. I like the way that he's evolving, and he's got great height, reach for that weight class of 154. I think he's going to be a middleweight in a few years. He's going to round out into that. And Ronald Cruz was tough, a tough guy to put away.
Very, very tough.
Guy with 2 losses who's never been stopped. Those guys are hard to stop. I don't think Xander Zayas is going to be stylistically Miguel Cotto, because I think Miguel Cotto is more of a power puncher. I think Xander Zayas is a little bit more of a technical boxer who will finish some guys as he moves up and grows into his body and gets stronger. But I don't think he's going to have the knockout percentage that Felix Trinidad or Miguel Cotto did. But you don't need to do that in order to be an elite fighter, right? I don't think he's going to be Paulie Malignaggi either. I think he's going to be great. And I think he just needs to keep improving, keep developing, stay healthy, and just do what he's doing. But, I think Antonio hit the point that I would probably hit is, make better decisions than he who shall not be named, who's in jail right now for something fucking stupid that he
Tony Yeo always has some of the best comments. I'm not gonna lie, they always make me laugh. I actually want to talk about this comment right here, going back. This is a really good comment. I am PK13. I think a motivated Garcia beats this version of Taylor. I agree. Ooh. I think Ryan Garcia beats this version of Taylor that we saw. And I'm going to be real with you. I have some other people that I think could beat this version of Taylor. I think Arnold Barboza Jr. could beat this version of Taylor. If this is what Taylor looks like, if we get the Taylor that we saw against Catterall, and we get the Taylor that we saw against Teofimo Lopez tonight,
that's true.
There's a lot of other guys that I would pick over him.
Josh Taylor should, he in spirit does have back-to-back losses here, if you want to be real about it. He'll probably have a comeback fight in Scotland maybe later this year or something like that.
Hopefully he'd win that one for sure.
It's Scotland. He should, but I think that's what he should do to sort of rebuild himself. Sneaky 32 years old, so we'll see.
He looked old out there tonight too.
I do think the layoff had to have been a factor, but I don't think it would have changed. If he had fought 6 months ago as opposed to 16, the way Teofimo was on point, I don't think that was going to change it. But Ryan Garcia versus Josh Taylor, we'll see what Ryan Garcia does. He's still in the Golden Boy contract for now. And if Ryan Garcia is able to get into the ring with any of the top guys at 140, that's going to be one of the bigger fights of the year, because Ryan Garcia is he just moves numbers like that, and he will even after this Gervonta Davis loss.
So before we get up out of here, I do have Twisted Tapioca coming up with some heat as well. I'll let you read this one, Brian, since he's your boy.
Disagree, he says. Taylor chooses how he fights based off his opponents. Kind of. Because the way he bullies guys on the inside, he wasn't able to do that today with Teofimo Lopez, which I think was a miscalculation on his part. Teofimo Lopez shut that shit down. A couple left hooks, and then boom. Another comment from Tony A. You know what, Tony? You mentioned the World Boxing World Series of Boxing, World Boxing Super Series. What weren't they supposed to do? I remember they said they were gonna do one for women's super featherweight.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? That never happened. Bring back like if we want to get some of these super competitive fights, it's hard to do promotionally because fucking everybody's separate. But like, goddamn, I want to see a super series again. Boxing needs more tournaments. Okay,
Yeah.
boxing needs more tournaments.
But we were talking about Josh Taylor, and before we get out of here, I do want to ask you this.
Yeah.
And is
You
Josh
ain't got
Taylor
nothing for Xander Zayas, by the way? Nothing?
Oh no, I did. I just want to let you take that.
Okay.
How many ways are we gonna go with this? Okay, you know what? We'll do this for 5 more minutes. I was gonna say though, from what we've seen from Josh Taylor, and I'm not being a hater. Okay, I just want to throw this out there. I have a lot of respect for Josh Taylor, but the Regis fight to me could have been a draw, or I thought Regis won. Right? Jose Ramirez, a lot of people in that Jack Catterall fight, Josh Taylor fans were like, well, that just wasn't the Josh Taylor that we're used to, and he was injured and all this stuff. When Josh Taylor fought Jose Ramirez, that did not look like Jose Ramirez that we're used to seeing. Jose Ramirez was also coming off of a long layoff. I would like to see that rematch, to be honest with you. And now we take a look at Josh Taylor against Teofimo Lopez, and like, I'm sorry, I had him winning 2 rounds. And so my question is, they talked about, are we overhyping Teo? Did we overhype Josh Taylor?
Oh shit. Tomorrow on First Take. But it's a fair question. I think the Regis win was questionable. It was also, Regis did not have the home field advantage there. So there was also that element of it. Jack Catterall, I thought he lost. Jose Ramirez, the interesting thing about the Jose Ramirez fight, even though that was a clear win for Taylor, and you make the point about how Ramirez probably wasn't 100% going into that fight. If you remember, all the scorecards are 114, 112. Josh Taylor had 2 knockdowns.
One of them controversial, by the way.
Which also means if you take out those 2 rounds, those 2 knockdowns, rather, you have 114, 114 scorecards, assuming you have Josh Taylor winning those rounds, which you probably would. Which also means that could have been a draw based on the judging if there weren't any knockdowns there, which, it's just, there are interesting ways to look at this. I don't know how much we overhyped him, whatever. I give him credit for being undisputed, but yes. I'll be honest with you. Even when he was undisputed champion, I never felt like this is an unbeatable, guy who's never going to go down at 140. Right. I was surprised that Jack Catterall seemed to be the guy to do it.
Yeah,
because Jack Catterall sort of made a name for himself in doing that, and there's a fight with him and Regis Prograis potentially in the future, just because they have the matchroom ties. But we'll see. But Josh Taylor, like, it's going to be a struggle for him to get back to that world level, because now there's just a lot of competition at 140. So he's going to have to get some decisive wins, and he's 32. It's not going to be easy.
And he's getting, like you said, he's getting older. He looks slower out there. He looked like the older man, and Teofimo Lopez looked like the young, sharp man that we used to see back in the day, not a few years ago. All right. This is something that's interesting. I am PK13. You kind of mentioned, like, Bryan and I were texting during the fight. He said that shot Taylor threw in the clinch was legal, but kind of dirty.
Taylor does some dirty shit sometimes, yo. He's good. Look, that's a style, though. Dirty boxing is a thing. Right.
Yeah.
And not dirty from like he's gonna punch you in the nuts type of shit. But will he get an extra shot in the clinch? There was the other one where they looked like they were gonna do the glove touch, and he just went for a jab. Like he could do shit like that. And ultimately, Amanda Nunes retained her bantamweight title, unanimous decision.
Just like we thought she would.
Yeah.
My last thing you want to know about Xander and kind of what I thought about his performance. Very technical, very skilled. I do think he has pop on his punches. I don't think he's going to be like straight up knocking out dudes with devastating power, but I think he's going to break down guys.
Yeah. Accumulation of punishment, TKO type of dude. Yeah.
And that is still nasty. And what I see from Xander Zayas is I think he could arguably be the face of boxing one day. I think he could arguably be that guy that is
all boxing or Puerto Rican boxing.
I think he's good enough to be the face of all boxing one day because of his skill. I think he's that good. And you know what? Just everything that I've seen from him, poised, like he likes talking to the media. He's a likable guy. Like he's someone that boxing can really sell. And I think me and Bryan talk about this all the time. Like, Miguel Cotto left, and it was like, that void of who is going to be the next Puerto Rican boxing superstar. And there was so much talk about Edgar Berlanga. And listen, he's still a young guy as well.
And someone else before that who threw it all away. Yes.
But he's in jail. Yes, we know. Okay. But yeah,
The
I
face
just
of
think
Puerto Rican boxing right now is Amanda Serrano.
yes, of course. Yeah. But I mean, next up, to take like that spot that Miguel Cotto really, really had, it's got to be between Zayas and Berlanga, and I'm really curious to see what Berlanga does against Jason Quigley. Right? If he gets a knockout, then we're going to be talking about him again, like we're talking about Teofimo Lopez, because they can hate you one day but love you the next, and that's exactly what's going to happen for Teofimo Lopez Jr. But I really think the Xander Zayas star potential, it's limitless if he keeps on fighting like this. He might not be flashy all the time, like a Gervonta Tank Davis, where he's going to knock you out every time, but they're different type of fighters. So stylistically, that's what I saw, but I was impressed with him. I thought it was a good performance. He's a really young kid. What is he, 20, 21?
He's 20.
Yeah.
He'll be 21 later. He's 20 years old. 16-0 with 10 knockouts, right? Like Felix Trinidad won his first world title at 20, but that was also an era where dudes fought a lot. Miguel Cotto was not I think he made his debut at 20 years old, and he won his first world title at 24. Either 24 or going on 24. So Xander Zayas, and I think he'll be a world title. He'll be in a world title fight within the next, I'll say 2 years, by the end of 2025 for sure. Maybe even before. Probably Puerto Rican Day Parade 2 years from now. Probably that day.
Should be the main event. He'll be the main event.
Yeah, I mean, next year he'll probably I think he could be the main event of his card now if you do it in Kissimmee, Florida, or something like that, Orlando, that area. There was one more comment I wanted to get to. Jesus mentioned Zayas has to pass Jahi Tucker. I saw that like there's been Jahi's seems to want that fight, and I saw some people talk about that on Twitter. I don't know if Top Rank is going to make that fight right now. I feel like that's something that they'll want to eventually do, kind of like Jared Anderson and Richard Torres. Like that's a fight that they'll do, but down the line to sort of maximize the profit, right? And these guys are young, but we'll see. I mean, but I think Xander Zayas is progressing at a good rate. He has the age in his favor, and Edgar Berlanga has like 5-6 years on him. So the face of pasta conversation, like Berlanga has to do it now, and you better do it against Jason Quigley, who I think lasted only 2 rounds against Demetrius Andrade. So
he's got to knock him out.
and if Matchroom acts right, I'll be there. So there's that.
All right. Well, if you like the content, you're watching this on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, follow us at TheMandatory TKO, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. If you joined the show today, left some comments, we appreciate you hanging out with us. We're going to have some more content coming up, including our top 540-pound list coming this week. And thanks so much for rocking with us. Any final words, Bryan?
And we're going to have a lot of Terrence Crawford, Errol Spence press conference stuff because I'm going to that. And appreciate everybody rocking with us on the channel. We got a bump of subscribers this week. We are now at 650 something. And we're nearing our goal of 1,000. And then after that, we'll have another goal. But we want to get to 1,000 so we can really, really step the show up. But thank y'all for rocking with us. Appreciate it on Twitter, on YouTube, wherever. And subscribe, tell your friends to subscribe, follow. We have a lot of shit coming your way this month and beyond that. So thank you.